I sat around the decks in my hotel room with my hands clasped behind my head. I stared into the ceiling and I stared at the laptop screen. Concoction of emotions filled my soul. Suddenly, there was a calmness. There was a calmness that engulfed my spirit because I recognized that West Indies is going to win the World Cup. I turned my attentions to the comments in the comment section. I saw a wide ranging emotions. I saw some persons whose comments were based on bias. Some persons who their comments were based on their favorite player or their favorite countryman. I saw some comments where in hindsight we are all expert and persons were showing that they are expert when it comes to 2020 vision. I saw some comments which was expected, where many persons believe that Obed McCoy should have played ahead of Shepard. All these comments, I welcome them. I have no issues with them whatsoever. I myself am very biased. I am biased towards the numbers. I am biased towards the statistics. That is where my bias is. And every human being is biased towards something. So when you post a biased comment, I have no issue with it whatsoever. I ask though that the comments be respectful. I ask though that we tolerate others' point of view. Majority of the comments last night were respectful. Probably just about 1 or 2% were touching on the wrong side of the line. I became greatly disturbed, absolutely greatly disturbed, when I saw a comment actually happy that Brandon King was injured because their favorite player will not get a chance. That comment disturbed me. And I said to myself, what if that person's favorite player break a feet or foot at training this evening? We cannot and we should not go down that line. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to the show. Basil, thank you for joining us. Welcome, Basil. What are your thoughts on the match last night?
Uh, uh, Thank you, Carlton. Good afternoon to your viewers. Good afternoon to you. Um, the West Indies, just from an overall thing, after the first inning, I thought we were 20 runs short. But after the match ended, I might have been off by another 20. It probably was more like 40 runs short because England knocked off the runs with 15 balls to spare. And in a T20 game, um, an additional 20 runs and 15 balls the bat is a walk in the park. So probably we were more like another 20 runs off. I mean, throughout the game, there were different little things, a series of different errors that you can point at that accumulated with us losing. From a batting perspective, it was unfortunate for us to lose Brandon King. However, coming out of the power play, we were 54 without loss, but effectively 54 for one, right? Because King was never going to come back to bat. Um, and where I think those runs that we needed, those extra runs we needed, where we lost the plot, so to speak, was the captain getting out in the 16th over, and in the the next over, Puran getting out. Now we would have two new batsmen in the time of the game where we look into power, where we would have had two set batters. At least if those two guys could have batted another 3 overs together, we would have clearly made over 200 runs. And I think that's where we faltered. And the runs were, I never thought those runs were enough for us to win the game.
Yes, Basil, you address how critical King getting injured was at the time. You already addressed that, and he really looks like he was in prime form last night. He was timing the ball so quick, sweetly, especially when he changed his bat. When I look at the overall picture of the match, Basil, especially how Jafra Archer bowled to Puran, especially in the beginning, you could see them bowling very close to Charles and have a deep backward square leg and a mid wicket on the boundary, not allowing him to freeze arm. You could see the tactics in bowling to the West Indies batsmen. Even when Adil Rashid have completed his spell, they brought on the leg spinner Livingstone to bowl some leg spin to Powell. So there are a number of plans that you could see just coming out of the English team.
Yes.
Did the English coaching staff, included Kieran Pollard, out coach Sammy and his team last night?
I think, well, I don't know about the out coaching. What I would say is our players did not execute our plans or whatever plans they had, because you heard the captain say that the bowlers moved away from their plans and so on. I think, and also I think Pollard is a great value in that dressing room for England, because people talk about Pollard whether they like him or not. The guy has a good cricket brain, and he knows these players. He knows the conditions in the Caribbean well, so he can bring some insight that would help their planning. And then remember, Carlton, the English were just here in last December. And more than anything else, I thought that trip was a reconnaissance trip. More than anything else, whether they're winning or losing the series was immaterial to them. It was more reconnaissance, because one of the things about the Caribbean, outside of the pitches, is the wind. And that wind plays a significant role. Which side of the field the wind is blowing, how you're going to bowl, how you as a batter going to attack bowlers, which side of the field you're looking to hit the ball. That is a significant thing, which they had to encounter playing in the Caribbean. So those were things that they had in their mind. And then adding Pollard, having more intimate knowledge of those conditions is a great value, because you've heard Johnny Bairstow talk about the value of Pollard there in the dressing room. And this is a former West Indies captains the CPL, and has played for multiple years around the region.
So is now looking at what England did with Pollard, should Cricket West Indies and Darren Sammy, should we be calling up on resources, expert individuals from these countries that we are going to play against? And the other thing is that it was clear to me that the English batsmen knew how they were going to play our bowlers. I never saw that from our batsmen knowing how they're going to play each individual bowlers. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, again, you saw an execution of plans. A lot of times we course coaches and so on, and looking from outside, and you don't know what the plans are. I always tell people, you can't course the coach. It's about execution. And if you don't execute the plan, and it was clear. Like, for example, Hussein, England decided, we're not going to attack this guy in the power play. We're going to work him and milk him around and come out of the power play unscathed, virtually unscathed. And you saw they did that. And that shows how good Hussein is bowling. Despite they weren't taking those many chances against him, he still created chances. I'm still bewildered as to why Puran did not try to dive to catch that ball and ricochet off his glove. It's almost like he stood there, didn't realize like the ball didn't touch the bat. That the ball didn't touch the bat. So why do I make an effort to go and dive the ball? That guy turned out to making 87 runs against us, right? I mean, I would love for the media, somebody from the media, to ask Mr. Puran why did he make an attempt for the ball after it ricocheted off his gloves.
But two things, Basil. To me, looking on, I just think that Puran was not quite ready for that delivery, and it was not the first time I saw. I also saw in the Afghanistan match there was a ball bowled by Obed Makar where it appears that Puran was not ready. Maybe Puran sometimes is getting too involved in the game and probably need to concentrate more on his wicket keeping. Or
Maybe.
you were saying that he didn't dive forward, but maybe I was not seeing right. I think the ball went straight to him. And how important was it that drop off Saul?
No, no. I'm talking about after the ball ricocheted off his gloves, it went to the leg side in front. But he stood there. He never made an attempt to move to the ball because the ball, he could have gotten to that ball, in my opinion.
Yes.
Because my first thing was, Puran, you're diving for the ball? And then when we see the replay, the ball come off the bottom edge. So that was a chance. I went back this morning because somebody said he lost his footing, and I was agreeing with them. And so I went back this morning and looked at the replay, and there was no loss of footing. It was almost like he was shocked. The ball hit his gloves, and then the ball dropped. Whereas then when you see the response of Akil Hussein, you could tell that he knew the ball. You dropped my catch, and there was no attempt to catch the ball. The second one, I don't blame him for that one. People say he was coming up too early, but you got to remember the bat was a horizontal bat, and if he had stayed in that crutch position where the ball to catch, the bat would have been blocking his vision. So he has to come up, and unfortunate. The ball hit the bottom of the bat. Those are the catches we just say, those got to stick. Those are the hardest catches for a wicketkeeper. When the ball hit the bottom edge. Those ones.
Basil, you'd have heard I mention, and they are preparing the pitch for the West Indies match. They were rolling it for quite a while. Now they are bringing on the covers. I cannot tell you which exactly pitch they're going to use because you know that is not allowed, Basil.
Oh, yes.
I see exactly which pitch they're going to use. But the pitch for the West Indies match have been prepared. They are now covering it up. Basil, I told you about the comment that I saw where someone is actually happy that King got injured. And because their favorite player is going to now get a game. What is that saying, Basil, about our mental state and how we see the West Indies team?
Yeah, that's one of the sad things that continues to pervade West Indies cricket, and it's a microcosm of the cricket is because cricket is the one thing that we as a nation, a group of nations come together. And really and truly, I often say the Caribbean is one nation separated by water. We one people, and that's a historical fact. But we get so much into this nationalism in terms of our players and so on. And it's the whole thing about you can't see the forest for the trees. No, I am wondering. I don't know if you've heard anything. You're on the ground there in Barbados. Have you heard anything about King's injury? Because what I saw somebody getting a side strain, abdominal strain, which would mean King would be out for the World Cup. And obviously, most likely, it would be Myers. Myers would be the one that come into the team. So whoever that person is, they may get a shock. Because if King is out of the World Cup and Myers come in, Myers would slot into the opening spot rather than one of their boys on the bench.
and the thing about it, here is King. Since we started that run in 2023, and by the way, before last night match, we have won 16 out of 23. Now we have won 16 out of 24, and this run was started in March 2023. King is a batsman that have scored the most runs for the West Indies during that period when we have been so good when we move from 8 on the table to now to be third in the ranking. You know,
Mhm.
I am not saying that King is above criticism. I'm not saying that Alzarri Joseph is above criticism. But for us to move from 8th position to 3rd position, it means that a number of players in this squad have been doing very well for us to make that upward movement. So I cannot understand this consistent calling for change, especially after somebody failed in one match, Basil.
Well, that's why they say the word fans is a short for fanatics. So you're gonna get some thoughtless opinions from fans based on sentiments, more like you were talking about the data and so on and so forth.
Yes.
It's just like today. Today I jumped on a friend because he was talking about what happened the last 5 overs, and right away bringing up Hope name. We should put. So I said, hold on 1 second. Yeah, last night we were 54 with technically without loss, but really it's 54 for one because King went come back after the power play. Now that is a successful power play. 54, even if it's the one wicket. Now, I said where we have the issue is in the middle overs, 7 to 15. Sammy himself said that's why we brought Puran up to 3, because he is a decent player of spin. That's why we brought in Shea Hope into the side, because he's a decent player of spin. However, despite those changes, we have only improved our run rate by 1, according to Sammy, from 6 to 7. Now the question I would love, maybe you there in Jamaica, there in Barbados, you will get a chance to press conference. Ask, why is Mr. Chase not batting at 4 and you bring in Powell at 4? Now, Chase is more equipped to play Adil Rashid than Powell, right? So why Chase was kept in the hut? They did it against Afghanistan. I don't know what was the rationale for that there. Maybe they just wanted to keep pushing the run rate. But Chase is more equipped to score and block out Adil Rashid out of the attack. And
Yes. And Basil is that as I said in the beginning, I welcome all these comments with all the varying emotions and persons expressing their views in their own way. I enjoy it. I welcome it as long as it is not disrespectful. What
mhm,
I am doing and what Basil is doing, that is that we now are expressing our point of views. We are not here saying that we are right,
right,
but we
correct.
are sharing an opinion how we see it. So we are not saying that you are wrong and you
Mhm,
shouldn't do what you are doing. All we ask for you to do is to keep it respectful, but
mhm.
be yourself, because diversity is welcome on this channel.
Yeah,
No,
I just want to say this point quick, Sir Carlton.
yes,
When I said a thoughtless sentiment is the one glad that King get injured so their countryman could play. That is a thoughtless sentiment in my view, because this guy, as you pointed out, the guy is representing us and has been doing a good job for us. And you glad he out of the team so your guy could play. And suppose now your guy fall flat in the face, what you would say then?
yes,
And it seems to me you are more interested in your guy playing than the West Indies winning.
and that is it. And we are going to support these guys.
Of course,
We are
because
going to support these guys because we are not like that. The other point I want to make, Basil, before I come to some of the comments, is that I want persons to understand that we will never not want the West Indies to win.
exactly.
If the West Indies academy team a morning is going to play a full strength Australia test team, we are going to say the chances of the academy team is virtually nil to
Right,
beat that Australia team.
right.
But in the end, we are going to try to find a way to see how West Indies can win,
Of
because
course.
that is what we do. So
Of
it is,
course.
it is not about getting too emotional. It's not about being blinded by the fact. But the fact is that we support West Indies, and at all time, Basil, we want West Indies to win, even when we realize that the odds are stacked against them.
And let me just tell you, we got a term we say in Guyana, like chewing your fingernails. We call it squeezing. Let me tell you, I was squeezing from ball one when England went into bat, chasing 180, because I knew the runs was not enough, and I worried from the you when I finally give up when the man hit Shepherd, the when he hit Shepherd, well, even before the torture runs, I said this game trending towards England, and then I gave up right after that over. That over was the final nail in the coffin for me. But I was, as the use of the Guyanese term, squeezing all the way up to that point. Hoping against all hope that we could get some quick wickets and put England under pressure. But it was not to be.
As you say that, and I'm coming to the comments right now, how important was that drop catch, poor and dropping Salt? I know you addressed it already, but the specific that Salt got dropped, would that you think that would have affected the outcome of the game?
We don't know. We don't know
Yes,
because cricket is a game of
a glorious uncertainty.
the next guy could have come in and really bat well too.
I make a yes.
Yes. And Johnny Bairstow did a good job. And remember that drop catch was before Butler got out. So now Butler would have been taking the same chance to come down the wicket to chase like that, knowing that Saul just gone back in the pavilion not too long ago. You see, all of that changed the dynamics. So that chance of getting Butler out on a ball like that may not have been there, because he may not have he might have said, look, I'm going to bid my time a little bit more.
Yes. I know. So Wilson Mans is saying that Shepherd was disappointing. We agree with that. And another point I want to make about Shepherd, Basil, and that over. That 30 runs, and I said it live during the watch along. It could be the difference between us going to semi-final and not going, because that 30 runs over really affected our negative net run rate. So instead of it being like probably by 0.03, it is now minus 1 point something. So it really affected our runs rate. And Alzarri's performance yesterday is why of concern since the start. His numbers cannot cover all his recent bowling. But Wilson Mans, to be fair, Alzarri Joseph got 4 wickets against New Zealand 2 matches ago in Trinidad. And Basil, I think that too many of us are caught up in this top of off stump bowling, this little pretty bowling, and doesn't realize that it is not the pretty bowling or the pretty techniques, it's the effective delivery.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
The top of off stump always remains a good delivery, especially if you're bowling at a high pace.
Yeah. Yes, I agree, but it is not the be all and the end all.
No, it's not. It's not. I think, you see, one of the things about Alzarri, in my view, is his inability to be consistent. That's my biggest critique of him is his inability to be consistent. Like, I mean, I want to see Alzarri bowl over like what Jofra Archer bowled at Puran. I want to see those kind of overs. Or the over that Rabada bowled in the 19th over against USA, when USA looked like they was in for it, and Rabada just shut it down and bowled over in the 19th over, give it about 3 runs or something like that. Those the kind of things Alzarri as our
premier fast bowler,
or helmsman, so to speak, or talisman, or whatever it's called the term. That's what we want to see Alzarri do. And I think all the fans are crying out to see that, because we know he has that ability, right? But we're not seeing it enough. And we looking across the room, and we seeing a Joffrey could do it, a Rabada doing it, and XYZ. We need to see Alzarri doing that more, since he's our talisman.
And I agree with you, Baba dear. So Basil. So I am not so we are not taken away from what Alzarri has been doing because he has been doing remarkably well. What we want for Alzarri is to take it to the next level,
Yeah,
to, yeah, to take it to that next level.
yeah.
Um, Basil 51 dot balls. Is it either here nor there in the grand scheme of things?
Um, you know, that's always been, you know, we continue to say 51 dot balls or how many dot balls. What have we not been saying this broken record for West Indies limited overs teams for years and years and years? This is more than a generation. This has been going on. So the question has to there's a couple of questions. And if you remember Carlton when Phil Simmons was still the coach. You remember they had a camp in Antigua, 2-week camp on specifically for developing those skills like strike rotation and the whole 9 yards, dead ball. And they had this whole camp of West Indian players who were still in the region because you had guys who had gone off to the IPL and so on. But the other rest of guys, now this is a continued thing. And so how the question is how can the team in this time overcome those number of dot balls? They got to figure out how best they can overcome and try to lessen it some because the more, I mean, think about it. You got 120 legal deliveries and nearly half of them was you didn't score off of. And you heard something very interesting. Johnny Bairstow in his inning, there was not a single dot ball. I remember at one time he had 29 runs in 13 balls, and he had not a single dot ball in that 29 runs. So there's obviously, I mean, this is something that's emphasized across the board. It's obvious that all other teams and individual batters are playing tremendous emphasis on lessening their dot balls.
Yes, and it goes back to the point that I made is that you could see that the English batsmen, they knew how they're going to play every West Indies bowlers. They know that Joseph was going to bowl this hard leg. They were on their back foot from ball one, Basil. We never saw that in our batsmen. We never get the impression that they know how they are going to play each English bowlers. Like the research was not done. And as Athena is saying that Coach Sam just got out foxed by England. You
Maybe,
say that you do not really think so, but I think that he was out coach. But
maybe.
you probably
No, I
don't.
mean, when you're watching a NBA game or something, and you watch one team playing a certain way, and then the other team is counteracting them, right? You would say that coach get out coached. And in that same vein, you would say Sammy was out coached because England counteracted everything we had coming at them. They had no answers for us. We looked like all we could do is try to slug our way to glory, you know.
Yeah. So do you think that it was because there's a general feeling by a number of persons, and I want to put this in perspective. Before we played against Afghanistan, it was a winning team.
Mhm.
And we changed that winning team, leaving out two players and bringing in two players. So to say now that we should not change a winning team from Afghanistan, it therefore means that the team that played against New Zealand, we should not have changed that either. So I understand persons are saying that don't change a winning team, but we change a winning team from New Zealand to play against Afghanistan, Basil.
Uh,
And so it doesn't quite reason that way.
in the case of Shepard, that was forced. Because you remember Shepard left the team to go home to Guyana to witness the birth of his second
So
child.
you would not have played him.
He would not have played in the Afghanistan game anyway because of
Yes.
that. No,
Yes.
for me, because the Afghanistan game had nothing in it for us on the standings or anything, I would have played. Well, Shepard not being there, McCoy comes in. I would have even arrested Russell and played the other Joseph because what using this game to see what options that we really have. See them in live action, in the conditions that we're gonna be playing. That the selectors could say, boy, I think this combination you're bringing in Joseph, could be something. Cause look, England brought throw at us the 290-mile old men at us. I was surprised. England, England was very tactical because I was very surprised at Corin playing. Because if you remember the last time Corin came to the Caribbean to play limited overs, he got a hammering because the conditions didn't favor him. But Corin more than acquitted himself yesterday, right? Instead of they played Corin instead of Jordan.
Yes.
So England really had their ducks lined up very well, and the result was a resounding victory.
I love this post from Esso. We don't have to react to it because it says everything. I love it. He said, as a fan of the West Indies, I will forever love them, win or lose. As fan, we praise them, of course, and we criticize them, of course, because we love West Indies.
That's
We were
right.
outplayed by England, but we can learn from this defeat. We can win this. I don't want to say anything more.
He said it best. We don't need to
We
respond to
don't need, yes, absolutely. And a thing I sent to Sean Ned, Sean Ned, he said that, do you agree with the sentiments from Sean Ned? I'm tend to lean towards what Athena is saying. What do you think?
stated we needed that loss to refocus.
Yes.
Um, well, if we needed a loss to refocus, so be it. Now we have put ourselves in this a position where we have to win the next two games. We have no leeway. We have no room. We better be, if this is what it takes for us to get laser focused and to be able to come out on top in the next two games, I will praise.
Okay. Yes, Tony is saying that nothing is wrong with changing a winning team. What are your thoughts?
I agree with him. I have never bought into that cliche, not changing a winning team, because the teams, you pick your teams based on matchup conditions, form, and all those various things, right? The game the game is a game where 11 guys got a job to do. Now, if three or two of them were disastrous in not doing their job, but we still won the game, does that mean they always will get to continue to play? You gotta make a change, right? So I never bought into that theory about you never change a winning team.
Yeah, Gemini, and I agree with you because horses for courses,
Yeah,
tactical reasons,
yeah.
strategic reasons,
Could you
condition.
imagine? Could you imagine? Let's say Shehu played in this match, right? And we are going to play our next match in St. Vincent. Because if you know about St. Vincent, they're making guys look like Molatorin and Shane Ward, right? How much the wicket torrid, right? You would definitely sit down, Shea up, and bring in Ruston Chase as an extra spinner. Because now you're going to play on a wicket that is offering tremendous help to the spinners, even though you won the game with Shea Hope. So this thing about, don't change a winning team is not.
Basil, and before I come to Jeremiah comment, he has made a few comments, but we look at this one. Um, and maybe it would have not made a difference to the match, but you were surprised that Ruston Chase did not bowl out his spell?
I was. He was our most effective bowler.
Continues to be.
That is another question, Sir Carlton. If you had a press conference with Mr. Powell before, please ask that question. Why didn't Ruston Chase bowl out? And on the Shepherd thing, we all know, don't bowl Shepherd in the death overs.
Yeah.
Shepherd should finish bowl by 15. Don't bowl him again. He has shown consistently to not perform well in that part of the game. Why are we still continuing to force the issue? We got a glimpse of it against New Zealand. He bowled the last over and sat him for 3 seconds. Almost started to give flutters to my heart that Saturn could win this game. You know what I mean? Yes.
Yeah, and Jermaine have contributed a lot of comments, and we're taking this one. And he's saying that the West Indies players just don't seem to think on their feet. They don't seem to adjust and to adapt. What's your views?
I agree with that. I've been saying that. I've said this so many times. The players of this current era, when it comes to adapting, that's a skill that they lack. They lack a lot.
But
Unlike a past eras where guys would make adjustments in the technique right on the fly in the game when they confronted with certain conditions, because that is something they did throughout their careers. But these guys in the current era, they really lack in that area.
Well, Basil, is it a cultural thing or is it only the cricketers? Because we have seen persons graduating from the universities with their degrees and so on, but yet still they have poor communication skill. They don't have any problem solving techniques. They cannot come up with their own conclusion and perspective. They are just following what is handed down to them by managers. Is that an
Yeah,
issue?
well, again, that all comes to training. Now, think about this. If you grew up in a cricket environment where from at club level that you had to encounter all various of pitches as you're coming up, you would be forced to have to make adjustments and adapting to different conditions as you go along. So you would have been developing those skills. You know now today, Carlton, all the pitches in the Caribbean for the most part is the same. You go and play from one pitch to the next. It's the same. It's the same thing. So you're not forced to learn to develop those skills of adapting where past generations they had no choice or they would perish because the conditions were varied as you went along.
Yes,
And
but
the same thing go with the university graduate. The university graduate is what they train them to do. They're
yes,
training them in real life situations, right? So now when they're confronted by it, they don't have no ability, no resources to fall back on how to solve real life situations because they haven't been trained as such in the university.
and yes, and as you talk about that, I remember an incident last week when I was coming from Trinidad. I was coming from Trinidad, and the Caribbean airline flight, the person that booked in at the check-in counter
Yeah.
was saying that they cannot send me on to Barbados because they do not see any ticket for me leaving Barbados back to Jamaica. And I was trying to tell the lady that she wanted me to find the ticket, and I was saying no. Caribbean Airlines should find the ticket. It's not my responsibility. I know the ticket is there. And she start, and go on and
Mhm.
say, shut up. Get me somebody who can solve this problem because this is above you.
Exactly.
As
And,
simple as
and,
that.
and Carlton, that was a simple thing. She needs to just go in the thing and pull up your name and see your return ticket there. It didn't
Yes.
cost all that stupidness.
And then she said, here's my supervisor beside me. I said, no, your supervisor can't solve this. I need a manager now.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody came and they start apologizing and so on after they saw the ticket. And I'm just saying that they cannot solve. They cannot solve local issues. And is that a
Yes.
problem that is affecting us also on the cricket field?
Yeah. Yeah. Or, I mean, if you remember one of the things Clive Lloyd said, he wanted players that could think on their feet. I don't see that much anymore in our cricket.
Yes. Keith Aaron Basil is saying that you should be recommended for an enforcer position in the West Indies team. you would definitely be an asset.
All right.
um and sport perspective, this is a YouTube channel. Basil, how your channel going, man? You need to promote your channel, Basil. You draw sports the sports perspective also have a YouTube channel. So Basil, you really need to get your channel going.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, 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 man.
Yes,
Eh?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
you definitely and so that yes, Puran should have definitely taken that cap.
Yeah, I look back at it and I was dumbfounded again watching the game live. Why there was no attempt to try to catch the ball because the ball was
No,
close enough.
it's not
Yeah.
something.
And
Yes.
yeah, and looking again and replay the same thing. So I would like you to ask Mr. Puran that question. Why was there not an effort to catch the ball and rebound? You know? Yeah. You still muted. You still muted, Carlton. You muted.
Yes, I want to thank you all for tuning in, and please have a good day. We'll be in touch.
All right.